Hello, hello. Welcome to RachAquarelle. And today, as part of my holiday art series, I have a really fun, very simple, but awesome looking Christmas card that you can make very, very easily. Now, it's going to be a snow globe, first of all, so I want a nice circle, and I'm just using my roll of masking tape. And I often find that I can make just about any shape of circle that I need just by looking around my house a little bit. Sometimes it is just a matter of kind of being creative and looking around. That's my favorite way to make circles. So I'm just going to use my toothbrush here to spritz some masking fluid all over the place. It doesn't have to stay inside the circle by any means. In fact, it'll be cool if it's all over the place, in my opinion. But I did aim most of it toward the circle so that that would be the highest concentration of those splatters. Then I let that masking fluid dry completely. And I had forgot to sketch in the bottom of the snow globe. Sorry about that. Definitely would have preferred to do that before I did the masking fluid. And there will be a couple of templates available for you for free for this project. So this sheet with all of these different Christmas card sayings in different fonts will be available to you. There will be a link in the description below. That's free. What I like about this, and the reason I created it, is that I just tried to think of lots of different Christmassy sayings, and then I found different nice elegant but simple fonts to put those in. So I feel like there's enough here to fit just about any project that you might want to do. And then from the template, I'm just using transfer paper underneath to apply pressure to transfer the lettering onto my card. And so it's just important to make sure that you're placing it on your card where you actually want to transfer it. So that can sometimes be the tricky part. Otherwise, it's very, very easy. And there will also be a template for the snow globe if you would like that. Otherwise, if you want to do, a different size or you just want something a little bit different, it's a pretty easy thing to draw onto your watercolor paper. And we're going to do this whole project with just one color. So that's going to make it really pretty easy and fun and whimsical. And I'm going to be using cobalt blue. I'm kind of running low on my other blues, so I figure I may as well kind of switch it up and use one of my blues I don't use a whole lot, although cobalt blue is a very beautiful blue. First thing I'm going to do is apply a wash over the entire background and kind of just around that globe. And I'm not being extremely precise about, maintaining that exact circle because, again, the thing I like about handmade things is that they look handmade. So I'm not really going for extreme perfection here. And I don't also want this wash to be completely even either. I want it to be a little bit mottled because I also think that that looks really nice. And I might even just drop in a little bit more pigment just to kind of give a little bit more variation and texture on the background. And then we don't necessarily need to wait for that to completely dry to move on. So now I'm going to start working on the inside of the globe. And the important thing here is that I want to leave a little bit of white space between the interior of the globe and the background. So you'll kind of see it a little bit better when I start applying color. And again, I'm just using that cobalt blue. So here I'm trying to be fairly careful just so I maintain a little bit of space between the inside of the globe and then the background, because that's going to be what gives us a nice effect of, this is a glass globe. So there's a little bit of separation between the inside of the globe and then the background. And the inside of the globe is where we're going to have lots of different washes, so different values. We're going to have it really dark up at the top. And then as we move down, I'm just going to kind of continually add a little bit more water. And down here where the snow is sitting, I'm going to have it be very, very light. So this is almost all water. I just have a little bit of pigment left in my bristles. And from here on out, we really probably won't have to use too much more pigment for the wash portion of this project. So I just kind of have my bristles very watery, and I'm bringing the sky down a little bit, letting it be a little bit lighter. But, you know, I'm letting there be a little bit of just white in between the snow and the sky. Now I'm going to add a little bit more pigment up to the top. And you kind of want to do all of this while everything is still wet so that the paint and the pigments all just kind of merge together and you don't get too many hard edges, although hard edges are not the end of the world by any means. I think sometimes that is just something that helps it look a little bit more nuanced and interesting. So if you get some hard edges when you didn't mean to, just, you know, try to leave them and be cool with them, because in the grand scheme of things, they're not going to stand out that much, and they're just going to add a little bit of character to your project. And it's important here not to go overboard with the blues, because obviously we need to maintain some light areas. And then once this part is dry, we're going to just add a few trees on the inside of the snow globe to make it a little bit of a landscape. And this is a project in which I'm not really using any other medium. A lot of times I end up using ink in my projects, but this one I'm going to really just stick with the watercolor and just this cobalt blue. And I am using a much smaller brush now, and I'm going to go over the lettering with the blue. I started out with way too much pigment on my brush, and it looks way darker than what I really intended. So I would recommend, you know, having a piece of scrap paper nearby so you can kind of test things out every once in a while. I've kind of gotten out of the habit of doing that. It doesn't happen very often that I end up with too much pigment, and having too little pigment is never really an issue because you can always put more on. But I really wanted this to be blue, and it's, you know, just so dark that it almost doesn't look blue like the rest of it. So now I'm trying to water it down just a little bit more, and I'm even adding a little bit more water to the lettering where it's too dark. And I'll just kind of let it spill out a little bit. Actually, you know what? I am going to use one other medium in this project. I almost forgot, because I'll kind of help the lettering look a little bit more put together at the end by using a white gel pen just to kind of draw some lines inside all of these dark blues. That wasn't my original intention, but I think sometimes if there's some part of the painting that you're not a huge fan of, there's always some kind of creative thing that maybe you can add to it just to help it look a little bit closer to your original intention. So for me, just adding a little bit of white gel pen to the lettering helped it look a little bit better, a little bit less dark. And here I'm going in. I don't have any pigment on my brush right now. I'm only adding water. There's just so much pigment on the paper. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of adding some water to these really dark blues to just kind of let that blue bleed out a little bit and dissipate. So it's going to have kind of a halo effect around it. Again, this wasn't really my original intention for this. This is just kind of how I'm addressing the issue. So I definitely, if I were doing this over again, I would just be more careful with how much pigment is on my brush so that I didn't go too dark. And now I've got a lot of water on my brush, so I actually can pick up a little bit more pigment because I want everything to kind of look, you know, not necessarily the same or uniform, but I do want it all to look like it belongs together. So I want that light blue halo around all of the letters now. And I'm probably at this point overworking it a little bit, and By the way, if you hear any weird noises in the background, it's my snoring dogs. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I do my voiceovers while they're sleeping because otherwise they are just wreaking havoc on my house. And yeah, so I just put up with a little bit of snoring so I can do my voiceovers in peace. So anyway, I kind of fiddled a bit much with the lettering, but it's going to end up okay. Like I said before, I think that there's always a way to kind of correct any errors that you make, or sometimes you just got to let the errors be. And now I'm just going to start placing in some trees. So I'm just going to start with a vertical line for the trunks, just to kind of figure out where I'm going to be placing all of the trees. And I don't really want them just to be like evenly spaced out over the horizon. And I think sometimes it can be our natural tendency to do it that way. So that's why I like to just place the trees down first, so that there's some uneven spacing between them. And to make the trees, I'm really just kind of doing some back and forth kind of scumbling. It's not a lot of pigment on my brush, but it's also not very much water, so that I have a little bit of control. And at this point, all of the washes in the background of the snow globe are completely dry, so I'm not getting any kind of bleeding into the background. So I just, I'm not really careful about the trees other than just, I start out really narrow at the top, and as I work to the bottom, I allow those strokes to be a little bit wider. In the base of the snow globe, I'm just going to leave white because I think it looks kind of nice. We have a lot of blue going on in here already, and I don't want it to be completely overwhelmed. So that part of the painting is just going to stay as it is. And we're just about done actually with all the painting. I'm just adding a little bit more variation to the snow down here, like maybe some shadows. And I almost forgot one little tree back here. And I think I might just go ahead and add another one. It seems a little bit empty over here on the right. So I'm going to add another one. And really what I just try to do is kind of just vary the height of these trees. Otherwise, I'm not really worried about, overlapping them or creating any kind of sense of depth. Of course, this is a snow globe, so I want to keep it very simple and playful. And now I'm just kind of looking at it, trying to see if there's anything else I need to do with the watercolor, and I don't think so. So that was pretty easy, and I didn't even have to use my mixing palette, which is always nice, so I don't have to clean that up. All right, so now I have taken a little break from this and made sure that everything is completely dry. That's very, very important. And now I can go ahead and remove the masking fluid. And remember, I have masking fluid all over the place, not just inside the snow globe, but I tried to concentrate most of it inside the snow globe. But it just is nice because it'll give a little bit of texture to the rest of the card as well, even though it's a little bit less. And then I used my eraser just to pick up some of the pencil lines that were left over. And I'm not fully confident that the inside of the snow globe is dry enough to remove the masking fluid, so now I'm going to use my white gel pen here just to add a nice solid line inside the lettering. And I really think that this helps a lot. It kind of lightens it up a bit. The gel pen that I have isn't super, super strong, so I'm not getting like a whiteout effect. And it's not like a stark white. Sometimes I kind of wish it was. but it's not, and so it's not going to be too out of line with this. It's just going to almost kind of lighten up the lettering a little bit, so it's not so dark. And again, this was not part of my original plan for this painting, but sometimes things happen and, it's kind of a matter of, do I let it be and just accept it, or is there something I can do that will be pretty foolproof that I think will help me achieve my original intention? So this was just one of those cases where I felt like that actually was quite helpful. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start gently removing the rest of the masking fluid here. And when I do spatter with masking fluid, it's pretty easy to just kind of gently rub it off with your fingers. You just get a whole bunch of tiny little specks of masking fluid all over the place. So no big deal. It's a little bit easier to pick up masking fluid when it's applied in, kind of a more bold way, because you can literally just grab a corner of it and peel it up off of your paper. But this is pretty easy too, and then it just becomes a matter of feeling for any bumps to make sure that you didn't miss any. All right, so that is going to be this project. And I think that you'll agree it's very short, very simple, but very effective, and it looks really great. So let me show you a close-up of this. We'll make sure my camera's in focus. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you might consider subscribing, and I also hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching.